Welcome everyone to the semifinals of the GSL. We have in the top left of Dragon Scales Byun, and in the bottom right it is Cure. So both of these players making it out of the round of 8. Byun in a very much surprising fashion by defeating Dark in the decider match. The revenge did happen, but it was in such a convincing way that it was really weird. I mean, the decider match curse, I talked about that in that group. It does, you know, it's a thing, even if it's not actually correct. It's like people say it's a thing. Byun just like went from being smashed by Dark to being, dominating Dark. It was just really weird. Anyways, Cure was totally fine. I had actually no fear that Cure wasn't going to make it through. I was just a little surprised to see him make it through in first, right? But now he faces Byun in a TVT. Byun's TVT is usually more aggressive, perhaps even occasionally erratic, than Cure, who, Cure usually plays a very straight and narrow type of TVT. He's all suit and tie most of the time. But his TVT is very good. I'd put Cure's matchups as TVP definitely first, TVT second, and TVZ dead last. TVZ is not very impressive. Fortunately, he doesn't face any Zergs in his groups, so... Anyways, Byun is proxying a second barracks, and so this is going to have a little pepper on it. If Cure was thinking about getting away with a 1-Rax expand, no scouts, just because, hey, it's the first game of best of 5, let's roll the dice, well, he would have been in trouble. But as it is a factory expand, and it is a reactor first, most likely into Reapers, Cure's actually fine. So reactor first dies to a straight-up 2 barracks proxy of Reapers if the first Reaper arrives. If the proxying player doesn't hold on to the Reaper waiting for the second one, then the first Reaper comes in here and gets such a solid start that it snowballs from there. But it's not a double 2-Rax proxy, all right? It is a single barracks proxy with the other one at home, and Byun is going to be waiting for 2 Reapers just with the, natural way of the proxy working out. And so Cure should be able to buy enough time to get the Reapers out. So he should maybe lose 1 SCV, maybe 2, then the Reapers will be out. So that's what Byun can look for. If he gets 3 or 4, that would actually be really nice. I can't believe that one didn't die. There we go. There it is. And 3 SCVs is going to be what he grabs before skedaddling, because he knows there must be Reapers on the way, because no professional player goes Reactor into Marines, really. It's not a very common build. And then, if the Marines aren't out, it must be Reapers, because Reapers take longer to produce than Marines. Plus, the factory does finish up quite quickly in context of Byun's Reaper aggression, so the Helling is already out here. Cure, nonetheless, finds himself down 3 SCVs, actually, and Byun is committing hard. Proxy factory and proxy starport, so that's definitely a lot more spice to this particular opener than you would expect. It is just doubling and tripling down on the aggression. But actually, Cure goes out on the map. He's probably shocked to find the production where it is, but he chose the right time to try and attack. Because otherwise, I think he would have lost straight up on the micro. He just would have been outnumbered. But coincidentally, with the timing there, Cure takes a decent trade, buys more time with the Hellion running away, will eventually die. But this means that Cure, of course, now knows, oh my god, I'm being really all-in, and then knows, okay, I managed to trade out kind of effectively. I'm not going to get simply overwhelmed here. And thankfully, Cure, I mean, maybe he figured Ben would do this, or maybe he was thinking of his own kind of cleverness, also up to a Viking, a starport. Because usually, when you survive against a 2-Rax, you do go into your command center. You don't go into your own 1-1-1. But very much necessary to defend this aggressive of a 1-1-1. I would say that Cure manages to maybe coincidentally find himself in a good position. And now with the Viking out to help against the medevac, Byun's not going to be able to perform his micro tricks like you would hope. His own Viking is on the way, but Cure is not stopping on his production, realizes that it's very likely nothing will shoot up from Byun, and lets that Viking bully the medevac all the way back. There's Cure's tank about to pop out. I'm figuring that he's pretty safe. He's gonna have 2 Vikings to 1. Yeah, well, his first Viking is actually getting quite injured. But yeah, he still has 2 Vikings to 1. Now, there's no way that Byun's going to punish Kier, but now the weird thing about two people one-basing is that you can play out a macro game at this point. If Kier had gone for a command center after factory, he would have an economic lead, but he might die without the Viking. But now, since both of them delayed their command center, it's Byun who's actually getting it first. Kier, at this point in time, over-defending, putting too much emphasis on the defense, and not enough on the what's happening afterwards. I mean, this is a very unique situation in TVT. So many times, Byun would not be proxying his additional buildings, right? And then he'd be going into a factory expand himself. Kier would go into a factory expand as well, despite all the hubbub of the Reaper micro and Reaper battles. And then, if not that, one person would usually do it. One person would get away with the command center, and that would kind of determine the game, either for them or against them. But this is like a PvP, where they both are one-base cheesing each other, and then it's just kind of a, well, you know, you can't break me, and I'm not going to attack into you, so do I just get away with an expansion? Not super common in TVT, but it is happening right before our eyes. Byun gets away with a much faster command center on location, turning into an orbital. Kier has fallen drastically behind because he overdefended. It's a tough line to walk in general in StarCraft, but especially against an unorthodox opener, which Byun has certainly showed here. Oh, the good lock-on right there. One tank is in extreme danger, the other one actually also in danger. Just the sheer amount of units that Byun has, causing a lot of problems. Also the amount of crowd control with the grenades, but Kier's actual army was tougher. Vikings land, that's tougher. Two tanks, that's tougher. So everything came together. Factory actually gets destroyed. Starport will live. Barracks will live. Byun, it's going to have a limited number of tanks, which is, you know, usually pretty important in TVT, but we're still at such a weird scenario that I don't think him losing the factory is actually that big of a deal, especially because he's already moving into a very bio-focused follow-up. He's not going into Vikings and Ravens, for instance, and then awkwardly not having tanks with it. Like, that wouldn't make much sense. But a full-on 4 racks bio, he brings his barracks back, right? You don't, you still need tanks. I don't want to say you never not need tanks in TVT. You do, but it just, the timing of this is, I think, fine for Byun, who's going to be running around, dropping every which way anyways, not necessarily trying to siege his tanks and slow push it. Kier is on a slightly more technically, you know, advanced army with the tank count and the Raven and the Vikings, but is going to have to play very defensive. He's just going to have to make sure that he doesn't get surprised by a drop or the sheer amount of units that Byun might throw at him. Because Kier is kind of in the dark right now. He has no idea what Byun has followed up with. Was his command center faster than mine? Is he already getting to a third command center? He's on location for all I know. Kier's scouting at a total of 0 at this point. Or Byun at least has a bit of a better idea as to what his opponent is doing and of course can do. So Byun is very much in the know that he's up against a more defensive player. Although Kier is grabbing 2 medevacs, so that's interesting. And then Kier would probably figure that he's up against someone who's emphasizing bio because he killed the factory. It's Byun, and it was a 2 racks opener, which does transition easier into just a lot of bio. So Kier probably knows what's up, but he did scan in the natural. Didn't actually see much of the army. Didn't see the engineering base. Didn't see a whole lot, actually. That was kind of a bad scan. But as I was trying to point out, I think they both have the gist of what each other's doing. Byun probably with a stronger read on it. I am looking at the amount of dead space in this main. It's looking awfully tempting. But yeah, Kier actually went for a couple of medevacs, which I found interesting. I guess because he figures 4 Vikings is enough. There's not any reason to continue producing Vikings. And I see that. I do see that. But the medevacs only help so much. He is not yet on a complete bio army. Those combat shields only just starting for him. So it just kind of looks... It looks oddly timed because the game has been odd. Byun with the much stronger Bioforce and of course his own medevacs is also going to have 1-1 before combat shields is finished for Kier, so his Marines are going to be so much stronger. It's going to be insane. And Kier's Marines, they gotta respect that. They gotta run back home to Papa. Good old tank count that Kier has been continuing to build up. He is at 6. Byun is at 0 because Byun remade the factory and was not particularly quick about making tanks. He wasn't particularly quick about remaking the factory. And now he's like kind of almost lazy about building tanks. He's at 0 tanks, and he's maybe gonna win this TVT. Maybe. Some very interesting maneuvers here from Cure. He is absolutely not the player that I would call to be doom dropping at this point, but maybe that's exactly why he does it. It's a failure. Oh god. Nope, nope, nope. And did he use boost already? He did use boost already. Wow, that was a complete failure. I liked the idea. He was like subverting expectations, you know? It's like, I'm the defensive one, I'm on tanks, and he is contained, although not as much as you would expect, because again, Byun doesn't have any tanks. So the contained, like, contained is a very strong word. But that's probably what Cure was hoping for. Sorry that Byun was so focused on the attack, on this kind of pseudo-contain, that a doom drop would have been quite the surprise. Byun does have to kind of give up that ground. You just have to respect tanks and TVT. And I think Cure's scan kind of behind the army, realizing, oh my god, there's 0 tanks here, led him to this third base actually being put in location. Tanks very well spread out. No missile turrets, though. And we are still talking about a Terran player with a lot of units and a lot of medevacs looking for these opportunities. So unfortunately, Cure not able to catch this one before it hits the base. Is going to save that +1 attack, however. Third base is also going to be under attack. 1 tank is in range to help guard this third command center, but otherwise, well, without tanks, again, I keep expecting Byun to have tanks. And every time I got to remind myself, 1 tank, here we go. Nice, Byun's first tank at 11 minutes. Amazing. What I was going to say, if a tank siege is up, this third CC can't land in mine. So that is in effect now, even though I doubted myself. 1-1 will finish up for Cure. Byun already halfway to 2-2. Byun happily mining from his third base, finally on his own tank production as well. I think it's going to help him actually get this victory. Good split from the anti-armor missile. 2 medevacs, though, not anymore, and unfortunately, some of these units have to be left behind. Sorry, tank. You know, compared to, like, actual tanks, StarCraft tanks are pretty speedy, aren't they? Anyways. That is a lot of Marines. Not yet with better upgrades. They are actually tackling around the same power of army right there. So Byun couldn't really do a whole lot of chasing. But it also was maybe a distraction, because in the main base, Byun's army is ripping through these SCVs, some of the reinforcements as well. 10 SCVs, 11 SCVs go down. Cure actually moves out. We'll siege up his tanks quite quickly, but Byun has so many Marines that he just spreads a little bit, and Cure's tank count doesn't mean anything if it's not supported. Cure taps out of a very odd game to start off this TVT semifinals. There we go. So, Byun with a rather odd build. You know, the 2 racks with 1 barracks being proxied is not odd at all, and frankly expected from Byun. But proxying a factory and a starport, now that's a surprise. And I do think Cure unintentionally countered it. As far as I know, he didn't. I might have missed his scout, though. I might have missed him scouting the factory, actually. But he did go for his own 1-1-1, which helped against Byun's 1-1-1. Anything else, and he would have been in a lot more trouble. Had he survived with a faster command center, he would have been ahead, but we'll never know if that would be the case, because he didn't go for a command center. He went for his own 1-1-1, which means that he was probably going to survive, and he did an excellent job surviving. He actually beat Byun at Byun's own game. So, defender's advantage, you would hope, actually would favor Cure. But then Cure over-defended. Right? He made too many units and did not emphasize his command center. If he had placed it around the similar time to Byun's, but his was on the high ground, Byun's wasn't, that's a better situation. Even if it's not the most ideal, but it would have been a lot better than what actually happened. Oh my god. Cure went for a command center first. Whoa. Whoa, man. Whoa. This is really risky. 1-Rax expand's already pretty risky, but Cure facing one of the more aggressive Terrans. One of the more flashy Terrans, I think, too, who kind of just wants to prove that they're good in the early game. I feel like Byun is so likely to be doing another 2-Rax that this is insane. Because, okay, now we have this kind of similar conundrum where I'm not sure. This is the first Reaper. Imagine if that was proxied. Oh my god, is this? Does this work out almost like a TVZ command center first? Where that first Reaper, even if it was proxied, would not stall out the command center. It finishes that fast? Maybe. If Byun hadn't gone to the command center immediately, that command center would have finished. That's so funky. But of course, Byun didn't proxy, so this is all just me hypothesizing anyways. It's just, it's so shocking to see a command center first. And if Byun had, let's put it, like, aside from that kind of conundrum of the command center actually finishing, set that aside for a second. If Byun had double Reaper production, Cure just dies, right? Now Byun's on double Reaper production, but it was Reaper Reactor double Reapers. So this is not the same as having a Reaper at home and a Reaper in proxy. If Byun did the exact same build as last time, does Cure not just die? Maybe. But that's the risk that Cure was taking. And you can see that he knows how vulnerable he is. He has pulled SCVs into a single Reaper so far, and still has SCVs pulled because he doesn't know what Byun's follow-up is. This is a command center first, whoopsie-daisy, no scout in TVT. My mind is being blown right now. Both of these games proven to be just a little bit different, you know? They're all gonna go to the same place, but the adventure is definitely there for both of these games. This is interesting. You know, it really sucks too for these guys. All these guys. Every one of the semifinals is that it's all TVT. So them revealing such builds means they might not be able to do it in their next series, but we'll talk more about that after the action's done. 4 SCVs go down as Byun does go for the attack into the natural, but Cure, I think, just kind of accepting that he might take some losses, just took that high ground, made sure that he didn't just overall die. And then with the Cyclone popping out, you're pretty safe. So, yeah, Cure's still ahead by 3 workers. Command center first. Just so insanely greedy. So yeah, but these guys are facing off in the semifinals. We have Maru and Bunny in the other semifinals, and then obviously the finals, which happened right after these games, to go into another TVT. Potentially playing 5 plus 7, 12 games of TVT. There's only so many chances, I feel like, for you to really do something quite sneaky, you know? Well, wait, hold on. There's a lot of chances, but there's not really a chance to, like, do it again. That's what I'm trying to say. There's not really a chance for Cure to do this command center first build and then do it again versus Maru or Bunny, whoever wins, you know? Like, that'd be really crazy if he does. But first he has to beat Byun anyway, so I'm just too freaked out about this. We've gone into the normal TVT at this point, by the way, kind of like I said we would. Seemed like it was going along that direction. Byun was not going to try and punish this command center first. He probably saw it and kind of smirked and shook his head a little bit because this is a very odd opener, but he's not going to be baited into trying to punish it. Because trying to swivel to punish a command center first after you've already dedicated to your Reaper Hellion opener, I mean, it's probably not going to be very pretty. So just grab your third command center. Know that they probably are grabbing it too. And hope that it's a little bit faster. And then eventually play a bit of a catch-up game. And when it's a 3-worker difference, I don't think the possibility of catching up is all that low. I think Byun can do it. Byun is doing something that I would never have called at all in this best of 5 or the next best of 7, whatever. I would have actually never called that he went mech. But it is time to explore. It is time to experiment, apparently. As these guys just need to do all the things in TVT. I guess what is weird about having to potentially play 12 TVTs is that actually being more weird more often would lead to, like, less figuring out. I mean, you can't do these things again expecting it to be a surprise, but you can basically say to the other Terrans watching this, hey, I can really do anything. Both Byun and Cure are kind of saying that here. Where it's like, yeah, maybe I'm never going to use this command center first build again. But you don't know. Instead of the, I guess, more typical openers where you can kind of figure out the little, you know, minutia that happens between the two styles. And like, okay, Cure always does this drop. And then Now it's just kind of all over the place now. So Byun, typically so well known for his micro, is going to play a composition that frankly has less micro involved. I mean, that's the biggest reason that I am always shocked when a guy like Byun or even Clem plays mech. But they do occasionally, apparently. Kira's little double drop entering into Byun's side of the map finds no success, but it's at least some sort of aggression. And it's also some sort of scouting, which Kira has needed for some time. Byun scans out onto the choke leading into his third, sees no army, decides third base is easy peasy to grab, and he's right about that. Now Kira didn't actually run that far away. He scouts the command center, he also scouted a number of tanks. Might be picking up on the idea that it is in fact mech. So far he's adding on just reactors to his barracks, so he actually hasn't picked up on it yet. Not that Mass Marine can't do the trick. Sometimes it's just a numbers game. You get that nice concave against the tanks, you know, it's good to go. But usually, the faster you can figure this out, the faster you add on a couple of tech labs, build marauders. Here, gonna be mobile. Very mobile. He wants to make sure that Byun can't get a fourth base too easily and doesn't move out too easily, kind of on a short map. Which means that the bio player might be able to be very aggressive, and actually this drop on the main is excellent. But it also means when the mech player is ready to push, they are getting across the map very quickly. 7 ACVs go down to this drop, a little bit of a distraction, at least as far as the Vikings go, but Kira scans the third base, and there's really no entry. Even though Kira has a Raven that would be unguarded. You know, interference matrix would have come down. That's just too many tanks. So Kira is going to go ahead and leave. He scans and sees the army starting to move out and knows that he can't really leave. He has to buy time. Finally getting some marauders out in the field as well, bringing everything to the front lines as he realizes that Byun is very serious about pushing. Now, Byun's supply isn't quite at that supply that we would say mech is completely safe to do this push. I mean, mech, you could always argue, is never safe if there's like one hell of a surround. Like Vindicta in the North American regionals, but usually that 180 supply is really the safety mark. You push out before that, it's possible that the bio player maxes out while you push, because they max out faster, and then you're traversing the map and all the open spaces of the map while the bio player maxes out and gets ready to defeat you, you know? So you gotta be very careful with this push out. Also, at this point in time, Kira's making sure that reinforcements can't join up, so if Byun was hoping to max out while he does the push, I mean, he might, but just not on the front lines. Command center is lifted, Kira looking to just buy time as he realizes he will have a real struggle against this army. Now the, I guess, just moving of the army around and about has turned into a little bit of a base trade, one that Byun has picked up on. He was wondering where that army was, realizes a base trade could be imminent, and sets up a siege on the natural. Kira was basically thinking the same thing. Also has to meet to the natural, but not looking as pretty here. Loses a tank, loses a Raven. That's still not a lot of tanks. I mean, it's not a lot of it's just not a lot of mech, you know? If a surround came down, Byun would still be in trouble, but I'm looking at Kira's army, and it just isn't much, is there? Most of it's on the side of the map, making sure that 3rd CC location got cleared up for the most part, but it couldn't do anything more than that. And now Kira returns home, but Kira's returning home after taking already so much damage. Where Byun didn't take as much. I mean, Byun did lose more SCVs. But his 3rd CC's back on location, and his army supply above Kira's. Mech player winning out in the army supply, that's concerning. And now we do have the attempted break, which is going to be good. Let's say this is a good break. But that was only a portion of Byun's army, so that's why it looks so good. The rest of Byun's army is coming through here. And Kira is still in a lot of trouble. As his upgrades try to finish up, he will have 2-2 to 0-0. Byun has only gotten a single upgrade. Kira, I guess, is alive. I can say that much. Kelzer was saying that mech might have been improvisation. I did see that, actually. I will go back and double check after this game is done. Byun, I would say, dominating this game as a mech player, 30-40 army supply up. But it is 2-2 upgrades for Kira. You cannot underestimate the concave potential of the bio player. Although, oof, that wasn't quite worth it. And Byun still has not replaced enough SCVs to saturate his third base. So, I mean, these are things to consider. I'm actually wondering why Byun isn't making SCVs. He does have the bank for it, so he just needs to kind of get on the ball here. And a couple of handlings being added in instead. It's clear that Byun's intentions are to win the game right here, right now, but I actually think that he could secure his victory with a couple more SCVs. A couple interference mages come down to make sure that Byun can advance his cause. Hellions lead the charge. The tanks waste shots on them, but here comes Kier's Bioconcave. It still, once again, is not going to be enough. And as he runs away, he just gets blasted in the face. So, and the Vikings have landed for Byun. They're going to lose some of their lives, but again, furthering the cause of Byun, which is to advance these tanks. Kier is trying to basically pick off one tank at a time, one unit at a time, and hope that he has enough economy to support the reinforcements necessary to do that, and that Byun might peter out here, but Byun so far is still rallying forward, and Kier is going to tap out. Yeah, Byun leads the series 2-0. And let's check out the timing of that stim. Oh, yeah. Oh, what? Oh, wait, what? No, I'm actually very confused now. So he starts Stim, but then he cancels it because he wants to start a second Viking. Okay. We understand that. But then he starts Stim again. And cancels it. And I don't see why he cancels it. I don't think he forgot Stim, actually. I'm gonna disagree with a pro gamer. How about that? I think... Because this is otherwise a normal build, by the way, right? So, keep with me, guys. Make sure I'm not totally crazy for disagreeing with Kelazar. This is a normal build so far, right? He's did the Reaper opener, he's moving on a couple of Marines. You don't have anything to swap it off with yet anyways. He's gonna get Tech Lab for tanks. Starport's gonna swap over with the Barracks, which is totally normal, right? We've seen this happen before. Oh, but I actually swapped off on the... Okay, so he went for Raven, not a Viking. But he's going Raven first. Only building Marines when he can. Saves it for third CC. Goes for second Raven. Everything's still kind of looking fine as far as still going into bio. Because look at Kier's stim timing, right? It's not even started either. Then he swaps as Kier... probably also just swapped, and Kier starts up Stim. Byun could have started Stim immediately, but emphasizes the Viking production, whereas Kier didn't bother with Vikings at all. So that's why they're different. But that's still totally within the realms of normal TVT. How many TVTs have we seen where someone goes Viking tank emphasis versus someone going a little more bio emphasis? A decent amount. And that's what's happening here. It's a little more of a bio emphasis for Kier. But this is totally normal. He's not late to Stim. And if he starts Stim when he did that second time and he just lets it go, then he's totally fine. He's still totally fine on that. But that second Stim being canceled, I think shows that this is when... This is him just like... Not even necessarily... It might even necessarily be him changing his mind. He might just have planned this... And then kind of like, you know, habitually started Stim. And he was like, wait, no, I want to play mech. Hold on. Because the timing of his fourth gas is also a little more mech inclined. It's also more inclined for someone who's not going into a bio focus as much.
Received. Apparently you are doing something right, Captain.
So I think that's a bit ambiguous, actually. But it is faster than Kier's fourth gas. But Kier went for a more bio-focused approach. I don't know. Now, to me, actually, this is him purposely going mech. I don't think his Stim was late. It wasn't going to be late if he had started it the second time and then let it run. Thank you, Bamo, for the 20 months. I'm not sure I can count that high. So, I mean, if you guys have any other counterpoints, feel free to throw them at me. But I think Kelazar might have even said that while watching it live, which means he might not have seen the second Stim cancel. So... Might have felt so far behind in Marine versus Marine because of the command center first. It's possible. I actually don't think he would have been that far behind. I feel like a player, especially like Byun, would only go as a mech desperate play if he was behind 15 workers and forgot stim. Because honestly, I don't think Byun actually gets behind 15 workers and thinks of mech. I still think he would choose bio. But forgetting stim would be one of the biggest reasons to go mech. I just don't think he forgot stim. This looks very purposeful to me. Yeah, hard to call, you know, especially if it was live. But thanks to the replays that we have now, we can figure this out, man. Amazing. Good thoughts, guys. Good thoughts. Nice little analytical discussion there. So let's go on to game 3. In the bottom left, we do have the blue Terran on his last life. It is Cure. In the top right, sent on SCV, we have Byun, who's sent on a second SCV. So far, he has 2 games under his belt where, this is the SCV being sent out. 1, he proxies a single barracks and a barracks at home. And he can look at the build order afterwards and say, you little sucker, you went for a reactor first. Besides that, he also won that first game. So, you know, it kind of is, it's showing how powerful 2-Rocks can be even when it's not committed. Second game that Byun wins, he checks the build order and he says, you little sucker. You went into a command center first. 2 games that a proxy 2-Rocks would have destroyed Cure. Certainly would have punished his greed. Byun is, at this point, I think, wanting to punish Cure for continuing to be greedy. If he is. He's not, though. And then also kind of has the support of 2 games won, despite not hardcore punishing Cure. So I think give him the confidence to do this. And third, he's up 2-0 and he's Byun, so like of course you're gonna proxy 2-Rocks. You know, like it's just the chances of you sweeping Cure right now is still kind of high, while the momentum's on your side. And if it isn't, you got a couple of games to lose. So I do really like this for Byun, but Cure is finally going for one of the safest openers that you can do. He's gone for a factory expand with an SCV scout. This is the safest you could ever play. Now Byun's 2-Rocks proxy is hella close to Cure, so it's still kind of scary. But this really should be the best possible scenario for Cure. I think without the SCV scout, I'm still really scared for him. But with the SCV scout, he's going to keep his Reaper at home and then prepare to pull the SCVs. So he's going to play really conservatively. Oh, and he's going to do the thing again. Cure did this before, or was it Bunny? He was maybe thinking of proxying a factory. But this time, the 2-Rocks player put a supply depot at the front. So they saw the SCV scout enter in and then not escape. Which is something Byun could pay attention to because he was just waiting for his Reapers to pop out anyways. The Reapers, you know, they pop right into the SCV pool in the high ground here from Cure, who also went for a Marine after, which pops out much faster. And Cure really got the benefit of this particular opener trade. The opener is way better for Cure. He chose the exact right time to stop being greedy. I was kind of hoping for the factory proxy again. But when that worked, whoever it was who did it, it's because the 2-Rocks player put the supply depot over here. They didn't even see the SCV scout. Byun's still trying to make this attack work. Sometimes you do have that moment where they just underestimate the power of Reapers. Like Cure didn't even pull back his SCVs. So, plenty of defense. Plenty of defense. Byun's still continuing to make Reapers, wants to have that threatening posture. That means that Cure can't move out, and that Cure always has to keep on guard. So that also might mean more SCVs being off the line, not mining. So at this point in time, Cure's had a lot of SCVs off of mining, but you can still see that it beats Byun, sorry. Byun's high ground barracks providing him the confidence to run those Reapers back into the main, but even with the best grenades in the world, which these aren't really, but even if they were, I'm not sure Byun could win the fight. I could see how it would get close, though. If more of those grenades actually hit the army, I could see how that would work. Yeah. Yeah. But Byun really does have to move on. Just try and find whatever damage he possibly can. And if that's only making SCVs pull off the mineral line, then that's what you get. Byun's command center does go on location, which is pretty much always the benefit of the aggressor. And Kira's command center will finish up faster, but basically at the same time because it's not on the low ground. Starport timing's not really a big deal anymore like they were, I don't know, 8 years ago. Cyclone's just so powerful against them. And both of them are going into a pretty normal game. Certainly playable for both parties, but Kira does rightfully have a lead. It's just not that big of a lead, despite having the best possible answer to a proxy 2-Rax. Kira's lead isn't that far ahead. So that kind of just proving that 2-Rax is a pretty strong build. Do I wish it wasn't? For my own ladder experience, yes. For the pro games, very happy when these kind of pressures don't necessarily mean the end of the game for either party. I think they create more fun TVTs. And this TVT has been pretty fun so far. Byun's looking to get that 3-0. I would say a shocking result, to be honest, if that does happen. I personally bet for Cure to win this best of 5, and then Maru to win the next best of 5, and then Maru to win the ultimate best of 7. Y'all can check my liquid bets, all right? Because I actually did those. But Byun currently leading, despite some, both of them trying to do, like, tricky things. It's kind of surprising. Maybe it is because Kira's tried to be tricky that he has lost so far. And this is the most normal TVT that has happened. And it is also the one where Kira's ahead, so, something to that. A little quick stop on that third command center is always nice, but Kira quick to fix it. Third command center of Byun is a fair bit farther behind. Kira really is just playing the most normal TVT, macro-oriented TVT possible. We do have that decision on the starport usage now confirmed, once again going into the reactor on it, as opposed to like swapping it off somewhere. For instance, onto this and going into those Vikings. So Kira is pointing into the faster bio, a little more aggressive earlier on, where Byun, actually, unless he changes his mind and goes mech again, is doing the same thing. He's just later to it. That's all, actually. But he could have also swapped and gone into Vikings and tanks. But yeah, he's doing the same thing. A little bit later on, a little bit worse on the economy, although right now it's better. The third command center of Kira is much faster. And we got ourselves one of them passive TVTs. After a 2-Rax, though, to be fair. But it is now a little more passive. And since both of them were basically doing the same thing, Kira's upgrades are a little late. Hello? I don't expect too many fireworks. Liberator's a bit of a change, but Kira's on top of it. Third CC, like I've been saying, is faster for Kira, but it's not like Byun's super far behind. Barracks production timings, fairly close to each other. No big differences there. Oh yeah. Oh yes. It's a 3-base TVT where no one's gaining any leads, which means we might have a 4th and a 5th. Oh yes, TVT. Byun still has a couple of microable units compared to Cure, so there might be a little pokey proddy over there and whatnot. Actually, I think the Liberator died. Nope. She's right there. But, as you can see, without any other form of aggression, the Liberator, the Medevac, not really finding any open opportunities. If Byun starts moving out with his big ol' army, then you suddenly have the potential of a triple-pronged attack. That could be kind of problematic. But right now, no one is super eager to move out on the map. Both of them waiting for some stronger units. For instance, Marines with stim, combat shields, and medevacs. Those would be the stronger units that they're probably waiting for. I was wrong. Kira's not waiting for combat shields. Well, it might finish as he moves across the map, so this might be perfectly timed. But he is the first one to strike, leaving his tanks at home to properly defend both his natural and his third base. Sensor tower is going to confirm that he is completely safe. Byun, a little out of position. Once that scan comes down, you know that they're about to snipe a couple of SCVs. So Byun responds. But already 4 SCVs going down, a couple of canceled buildings, and this little hit squad on the backside maybe being caught out. Grenades, actually surprisingly helpful. Minute 9 in TVT. I would say, I would call this a bit unnecessary on Beyond the side. 2 Cyclones, maybe better off just lifting. Well, okay, I was wrong. He managed to save both Cyclones. It just seemed like, you know, it was like 1 Marine at a time. Right. Is it really worth all that micro? I suppose so, because nothing else is happening on the map, so fair. Ever cast with Artosis? Yes. Once. Yep, once. That's it. Combat Shields starts very late for Beyond. Did I imagine that already starting? I think I might have imagined it. So that is much later than Cures. But I don't actually expect this to create a problem. No one's... Oh, well, here we go. Army might be moving out. If Cure's moving out and trying to engage, and I still see that combat shield on the production tab, well, then we have a right to worry. But if there's no engagement, then who cares? Combat shield isn't that slow of an upgrade. Also, as far as the upgrade timings work out, it's really evened up despite Cure kind of missing that +1 armor for a little while. Scans coming down for both parties. Cure obviously wanting to figure out if there's an opening on the right side, which Byun responds to. It's going to try and jump on top of the tank, but nah, it's too fast of a siege up for Cure. 7 SCVs just went down to the Liberator, who has been barred from the main base, but thought maybe that third was nice and juicy, and they were right about that. That Cyclone late to the response. 9 SCVs, not too shabby for a Liberator that was ultimately otherwise useless. Took a long time to find its use. 2 Medevacs try to fly into the main base, but Byun, having saved both those Cyclones, actually is now really well set up to defend those types of drops. Now, a Doom drop is a different problem, but 2 Medevacs, 2 Cyclones, that's perfect. Cure has 5 barracks, 2 factories already done for Cure. Byun not going for a second factory yet, despite having the resources, is, I think, frankly, just messing up. Even if he adds on 3 more barracks and wants to emphasize the bio, like Cure is currently doing, you can now see that Cure does it with a second factory, so, you know. Why doesn't Byun have one? I think it's a mistake. They both are getting maxed out, so production's gonna halt for a little while anyways, but I definitely think this is a mistake. You are eventually gonna be trading outs as Cure continues to pressure. And producing 2 tanks at a time is much better. And there you go, second factory finally on the way. As well as those 3 barracks, Cure is getting a little bit faster on that production while also aggressing. And the interference matrix coming down as well. It's becoming just very surgical from Cure as he advances his position in Byun's natural. Byun not taking a sitting down, at least has this giant Marine hit squad going over the left side, almost like a base trade amount. Planetary finishes up though, and that just sucks. Sucks for mass Marines. I mean, I think Byun might have been able to tackle it if it was by its lonesome, but he also saw that Cure's army was still there, so it's definitely not worth jumping on top of a planetary. If that was an orbital, there's a real chance that Byun would have risked it for the biscuit, you know? Would have actually tried to kill that orbital before the SCVs got the repair, but not a planetary. So Byun's attempted run-by did not work out. He's still under siege on the right side, and even though that's clearly only half of Cure's army, Byun has not managed to take care of it. And he's got another half of the army to worry about. The drops intercepted to the left. Well, I guess they were just Marines at that point. Now turning the drops into the main base. No missile turrets, no Cyclones, no production. Cure's been maxed out. So his only answer is to run back home, but at the same time, Cure did try and bust into that natural, so his Marines are taking down the orbital, the SCVs, and perhaps even the upgrades of his opponent, whereas Byun's drop successfully landed. It didn't land on anything particularly important. 3 barracks go down, but I think Cure would take that trade every day of the week compared to the orbital, the SCVs, the engineering base, and now perhaps even the rest of Byun's army. In the span of 20 seconds, Cure dominating game number 3 and starting his comeback. Now up 40 supply, 20 in the workers, 20 in the army. Planetary's done. 4th and 5th are on the way. 6th is even on the way. And Byun's medevac drop even gets found out trying to enter back into the main, which Cure would have been well defended against anyways. He does have his little defensive squad there, looking for those drops again. Cure has all the victories, just needs to punch it I guess the one victory he doesn't have is upgrades. Oh, wait, no, that's right. Byun lost his upgrades. Just kidding. They didn't finish. They were killed. So, literally, Kira has everything going for him and just needs to finish the game. Marine scouts that this is a 4th base orbital, which if Byun really was still in the game, maxed out alongside Kira with his upgrades finishing up too, there's so much back and forth that this orbital might be totally fine. But now that Byun is on the back foot, desperately hoping to survive, having an orbital that has just been scouted is extremely vulnerable. So he knows it. He knows he's desperate. He pulls back the orbital. I think it's a very smart decision. It's wise. You know, there's really no other alternative here. And just waits for his natural to be rebuilt. He does have a drop. That drop that stopped from going into the main base finds the 3rd, kind of similar to the Liberator earlier on. I love the drop on top of the tank, but there are more Marines available for Kira, so Byun's going to actually shoot past that. Go into the natural. Of course, Byun's natural is also under attack. We got drops on drops on drops, guys. That's what happens when both of them go 8 racks. And that replacement natural command center is also a goner. Byun's army is trying to hit the production of Cure. I don't see any tanks, just the one on the high grounds. This could turn into a literal base race. 2 tanks on the high ground for Byun. 1 poor tank over here is going to get bopped. Planetary will hold on for a little while longer for Cure, but Byun perfectly sectioning off his army. Tanks hit the planetary, and that will kill that. Marines enter into the main base, or at least they try to, but suddenly a second tank was out. Those 2 tanks really causing a lot of bloodshed on the ramp. Byun decides he can't go into that production line, which is now problems, as Kira is attempting to go into that production line himself, and he will be successful. He bopped the tanks, he bops the Liberator, he moves on top of Byun's barracks, and that's going to be it. Byun has to lift and leave and hope that his army can take on Kira's, which we know is not the case. Byun is down 30 army supply and down 2 upgrades. And mostly Marine battle. Especially with it being a base race, things just get faster, right? So it's unlikely the tanks will play as big of a part as they're hoping to. They're excellent when you have to reduce and play passive and defensive, which was Byun was doing. But they're kind of difficult to utilize perfectly in a base race. Cure could maybe send tanks back home, but he doesn't have to. He's still producing them, right? So these tanks, wonderful at defending the production. Byun, what's he got? Marines, mostly. Tanks that can siege up. Okay, well, if they don't just fire. Oh, no, that was a bad. Oh, no. Oh, man, that was a disaster. Oh, Lord of Jesus, that's bad. Oh, Byun did not scout ahead, did he? He just went with his gut. And it was completely wrong. Kira dominates that base race. I was trying to say that if Byun sieges his tanks because he gets a hint that Kira's running across the map, for instance, well, maybe Kira accidentally runs into tanks, but you know, that was the opposite actually. Byun accidentally ran into Kira's tanks, so a more solid game, I would say, from Kira. It was just so much more of a normal TVT, and I feel like Kira really liked that. he really felt that one, you know, and that slow push in while he defended everything else really well back at home. Just kind of, I don't know, that kind of proves my hypothesis, which is that Byun was going to be the flashy Terran who could make big moves and maybe then make victory out of it. But Kira's just that solid TVTer. So let's see if this continues as Kira starts his comeback. In the bottom left, finally getting a point on the board. It is Cure. In the top right, we have Byun. These replays are from GSL. If you would like to support GSL and more directly the players, as all of the crowdfunding goes to the player prize pool, go to patreon.com/GSL. And you can get your hands on these replays or just support the Korean players who really do need your support. Still giving excellent games, still practicing their butts off, and they are getting pennies over in Korea. GSL was severely cut. But now, thanks to the support of the community, it's looking a little bit better. Still not up to what it used to be prize pool-wise, but, you know, yeah. That alongside some other initiatives like the Wardy Korean tournament, as well as the Korean Weekly. Hearts going out to the Koreans, you know. We got a 2 Rex, once again coming down for Byun. Started his success, he's going to go back to it. 1 in proxy, 1 at home. Cure, changing things up a little bit, goes for a 2 Rex himself, both in base. And what does that mean, guys? Oh my goodness, it's a 3 racks. Well, I was going to give you a real softball question in the first place. Well, it's going to get even softer here, guys. What wins, 3 barracks or 2? Cue the Jeopardy music. You know, this is just... It was already going to go well for Cure. With 2 barracks at home, so his Reapers come out and collect themselves together, and you have the SCVs to pull as well, you're going to win defensively. But add in a 3rd racks, and there's really no question. The only way this gets weird, the only way that Cure doesn't win this scenario, is if his Reapers are just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Just somehow the stars align, and Cure's Reaper number 1 is chilling over here, and his Reaper number 2 runs into the Reaper of Byun, and it dies. You know, it's going to require some very coincidental pathing. 2, because Byun has better micro. I'm not sure that's actually true. He might technically, if we put them both into a micro trainer, Byun might win. But as far as the actual required micro to win TVTs, it's been pretty even. The 2 Reapers of Byun do enter into Cure's base first, you know, without Cure realizing what was going on, because no one's scouting, if that wasn't clear. No one had any idea what the person was doing. But then Cure has a 3rd Reaper pop out, and he will take down Byun's 2nd Reaper, giving him that advantage that he was going to have regardless, as the 3rd barracks, but if it was 2, he'd have an advantage. The SCV losses were worth it if it means that the Reaper count snowballs, which I think it will. Cure is up to 5 Reapers, Byun's at 2. Byun could only get to a factory at a certain point in time and actually has gotten to it? Oh, he proxied it again. Oh, okay. But now it's weird because his Hellions going to be coming in from an odd direction. And a weird, like, and Hellions are kind of stupid, right? Like, they're really helpful, but when they're well controlled. One Hellion trying to intercept Cure's reinforcements might not be better for the Hellion, believe it or not. Cure's eyeing the main base. He wants to try and go up it, but he's got to be wary about SCVs or perhaps just underestimating what Byun could have behind this 2 racks. He doesn't know where the factory is after all. And now he gets into the main base without any punish. The Reaper grenades are coming down, and Byun's SCVs are looking so freaking foolish. They're trying to chase, they're trying to help, man, but they are just not helping. Cure's grenades were excellent as well to make sure he never got surrounded. His focus fire on Byun's Reaper was fine, and a backup Reaper came in and distracted Byun's shots. So even though Cure does lose a Reaper, it was pretty freaking worth it. Cure killing all of Byun's SCVs, Byun looking to return the favor, now sending all of his army across the map, and the Hellions get in! Whoops-a-daisy. So a lot of SCV damage could be had here too, but it looked like the Hellions are so stupid, they shoot in one direction. What's up with that? They could not kill the Reapers or the SCVs to save their life. GG. This TVT, I'm so glad it's different, you know? Because if we watched, what is it? 17? Yeah, if we watched 17 TVTs potentially, and they were all the most boring factory expands, oh my god, no one would have enjoyed this day. Hopefully, this continues to be weird. As Cure ties up the series, lickety-split. In the bottom right of the final game of the first set semifinals, it is Cure. In the top left, we have Byun. And Byun had a solid 2-0 lead. Suddenly, things reverse. How the turns tide. And it wasn't like Cure did just play nothing but orthodox, normal TVTs. He played 1. And that did give him the success in game number 3 to stop the 3-0, so that worked out in that way. But then he didn't just stick with it and say, like, oh, I'll just try and be like a really normal, boring Terran. He went for a 3 racks in base, and it worked wonders. Gets a almost easy win, aside from the kind of pseudo-base trade that was about to happen. Really good stuff. So now, game 5. What's on both players' minds? Cure going for a factory expand. Byun figuring that the time for proxies and multiple racks is over. He's going to try and get away with a 1 racks expand. He's finally going to try and do it. He's kind of been avoiding it, always the one, or usually the one, to provide the pressure early on. But now he's going to be the one taking a more defensive role. Defensive for the very early game anyways. This could change over into a Hellion Marauder all-in or something. I don't think we're going to see that today, but, you know, maybe. There's always a maybe. Here, playing it very safe once again, not just factory expanding, but also SCV scouting. Now, this SCV scout does mean that he has the opportunity to change his build a little bit. You can only change it so much. Obviously, you can't just change this over into reactor first, for instance. But, you know, say he was going to go 1 Reaper, 2 Reaper, Hellion. Now he could go 1 Reaper, Reactor and not be punished. His factory doesn't build a Hellion if he doesn't want to. I mean, basically, Kira has 2 options. He can say, oh, okay, you're not going to attack me, and play macro, more macro, if you can, with a factory expand. Or he could say, oh, okay, you're trying to be a little greedy. I'm going to try and punish that and build a lot of Reapers and a lot of Hellions. And maybe go for a medevac drop, even though he didn't want to initially, so on and so forth. But that's still the benefit of the SCV Scout, even though most of the time the SCV Scout is just confirming, like, I'm not being 2 racks, right? Wins the little SCV war. And winning the Reaper battle? No, he's not. He's not, actually. Kira has to skedaddle. Byun with a temporary loss of building time on that command center, but Kira obviously going to be doing it on location without fear. Still going to be behind by 30 seconds. You know what hasn't happened in this series yet? The double starport thing. I wonder if we'll see it in any of the TVTs. How many seconds before finishing was that? 1? Not even? Kier getting another stop on the command center. A little bit longer of a stop this time as well. Not going to get punished for it either. As all of his units managed to run away. He's building more units, by the way. He is choosing to be a little more aggressive before going into the tech labs, the reactors, whatever it is. Byun has opted to go into a Hellion follow-up, so the Hellion follow-up really does protect you against some of the bigger attacks in the early game. For instance, if Kira was going 5 Reaper, 3 Hellion, then Byun would be safe. Kira's not doing that, but of course Byun doesn't have any scouting. So the Hellion opener is, I would say, certainly safe, although Clem did defeat it yesterday, despite it being safe against what he was doing. It also can be offensive, clearly. I mean, if the Hellions are literally only made to be defensive, that's really not worth it. That's units that's not going to help the longer the game goes on, compared to a Cyclone and a tank. So the 6 Hellions definitely want to get some damage done. They certainly are capable of it, but, you know, theoretically, they're never supposed to get up into the main base. Kira doesn't have a wall, so they could. See what happens. Kira gonna have this little line of units, make sure the Hellions can't do as much damage. Kira doesn't know it's a Hellion opener either. He does not. Still a little in the dark. But when's the last time I saw all these Hellions do enough damage? I don't know. I feel like it's been a long time. Let's see if this is different. See, there's so few SCVs in the natural that even if the Hellions gun it for the natural, it's not really worth it. They do barbecue all those Marines in a nice, very pleasing to the eye line of barbecued bodies, but otherwise the Hellions mostly a distraction as the Auditor comes into the main. Still no big damage done. And Kira is handling this like the pro that he is. And hey! Oh my god. I swear I didn't watch these games, guys. Second starport is on the way, finally. I was like, I wonder if we're gonna see this, you know, today. And there it is! There it is. Second starport coming down for Kira. Byun is going to be a little bit lower on the factory production, isn't he? His Cyclone just popped out, but he still is working on that tank. Finally pops out. But he's going to be about tank behind. He's got 2 Ravens. Oh, he's got 3 Ravens, actually. And he looks to maybe be going into some Vikings. Yes, he should, but he can't afford to do literally everything at once. There we go, Vikings. This 2 starport attack has still been quite powerful. And we've seen more defenses against it than its peak 2 months ago? 3 months ago? I don't know. But it still does win games straight up. It's basically impossible to scout. I don't think I've ever had the situation in which Byun, for instance, gets some type of scout going on that second starport. So you don't know very far in advance that you're being attacked. If it does get across the map without your knowledge, you're in a little bit more trouble. I would say Byun moving out here might be a benefit, but it depends on how the engagement actually goes. It's a little awkward as the interference would just come down on Byun's tanks. He has not returned the favor on top of Kier's, finally doing so, but a bit late. It is definitely a scuffle here. Everyone losing units, but Byun definitely coming out ahead as the dust clears. Everything gets chased down. The last tank gets chased down, and Kier is in a lot of trouble. Byun being out on the map like that, I thought would favor him, because at the very least, he could disengage and just say, I bought some time. But then he actually wins all of the wars that were happening there. The Raven Wars, apparently, even though Kier got his off faster. The Tank Wars, the Viking Wars, and Kier is the one that's in a little bit of trouble because he really does need to push fast. This is not something that you do and then say, oh, it didn't work, I guess I'm fine. You do need it to work a little bit. That third command center of Kier is way far behind. Byun's is completed and prepared to swap on over as he knows he has the map control. Even gets vision on this attempted Viking scout hit squad, whatever it was going to be. And Kier is in a lot of trouble. He's actually going to try and get his third CC down location, knowing that he is behind. That is bold maneuver, considering that Byun's army was still posturing aggressively. But it looks like it will be okay. I mean, Byun even scans this. And I think the temptation to try and punish it is probably pretty freaking strong. But Kier does have the two magic units of TVT. Vikings and tanks. Magical. And more importantly, he has more Vikings than his opponent. So that's something that Byun, I think, was a bit scared of. Rightfully so. Kier's Vikings even posturing aggressively. Because there's not much that shot up. That was a Cyclone, but it's a very weak Cyclone. And Kier has managed to at least secure the third base finishing. The actual third base staying and saturating and all that still up for question. That could change. But right now, he has done what he needed to do. So he's caught up a little bit, but don't mistake my praise for him being totally back in the game. He is still feeling the issues from the 2 starport attack not working. Much later stim, no combat shields, no upgrades on the way. And he's down 9 workers. What Kier has right here, right now, is a decent army supply. Starting to be outnumbered by Byun, but the army supply that Kier has is really good. Vikings and tanks. The Marines of Byun with combat shields jump on top of those tanks, feeling very adventurous. However, they might have taken on more than they should. Those tanks were sieged up. This one in the back helped out. The Liberator also getting those one-shots, cleared out the Marines faster than Byun was hoping for. Once again, Kier takes a minor but still very important victory in the battle, in the time buying. So that Byun has to, you know, kind of pause a little bit to get his medevacs on the field, get more Marines on the field, and then he can re-engage. But at that point, Kier has once again set up defensively with Liberators and tanks. Sensor tower going up, Vikings in place to stop any drops. I mean, Kier, he knows he is behind. He knows he's in a lot of trouble, and he is playing some super defensive TVT. This is kind of almost absurdly defensive, because we know that it can happen in TVT. You position your tanks well, get some missile turrets, get your Vikings. But the fact that he also has 3 Liberators is almost comical. This attack from Byun might not be enough once again. There's just too few units for Byun. He's hoping that he can just end the game lickety splits, but Kier has the proper units for these particular battles. The battles in which Byun doesn't have an overwhelming number of Marines. Now, if Byun has 30 Marines, then the concave would have been fine and Byun probably would have won. But at 15 Marines, tanks and Liberators combined together, they clear out that force way too fast. And then what does Byun have afterwards? Just lonely tanks that have to siege hop forward? They could, if there weren't Liberators. So Byun is kind of throwing away his lead here. He still has a lead. He still has combat shields over his opponent. He still has 2-2 on the way as Kier finishes 1-1, and his 4th base is coming down on location. But I would say if Byun had taken a chill pill after that very first fight, didn't engage into the tank Liberator here, and didn't do this attack over here, I think he would be maybe 20 supply ahead, not just 10. And maybe that's still not enough to kill Kier because it's TVT, but I'd feel a lot more secure about it, because then it also means that Byun is not making bad decisions. But right now, Byun isn't as far ahead as maybe he should be, and he is making some faulty decisions. He's getting a little too eager to end the game. I guess you could also look at it another way and say that Byun is afraid of letting this game go. He knows how important it is to cut the head off the snake of a Terran before they saturate the third base. Oh, what's that tank stuck? And he's probably getting some, like, you know, PTSD flashbacks of facing Maru after having a substantial lead and the guy still coming back. So there is that perspective as well. But the point is, Byun not getting the Game 5 victory that seemed well set up for him after defending that 2-star port push. It's going to be far more of a struggle than he was hoping for. And now Kier is going to grab his own 4th base, even up the base count. Upgrade still heavily in favor of Byun, but can he use them? It's all great to have the marine upgrades beating your opponents, but if tanks are firing away, it might not matter enough. Right now, Kier's tank count's not very impressive. He does finally have 2 factories. I think that was very recent. Upgrades are also still even for this particular battle. In this, I would actually say Byun has such a marine lead that he might have been able to concave there. But he did also stim. He's going to have to stim again. He's going to try and maneuver around. But once again, Kier sieging his tanks, scaring off Byun's mostly double-stimmed army. And Liberators take advantage of this rock pillar wonderfully to clear out the tanks. Byun not finding the opportunity yet again, and Kier is inching closer to also being maxed out. And 200 supply versus 200 supply is a bit of an equalizer, isn't it? It's all fair at that point. As long as the upgrades are. Second starport on the way for Kier, who's not going to try and suddenly swap this into a mass barracks play. I think that I don't know if you can really do that when you're already the defender to such a degree. To suddenly just be like, you know, I'm going to go 8 barracks too and have a lot of fun. Yeah, let's do it. It's probably a lot safer, a lot wiser to go into the starports. But Byun definitely went to the 8 racks, is definitely looking for that momentum, and finally, after 3 or 4 attempts, finds an opening here as Kier got distracted over to the right side. 3rd orbital will die, 15 SCVs as well, and the planetary for Kier not mining, as Marines are just standing there. 2-2 is going to finish for Kier, so any further battle will be equally upgraded, and in fact favor Kier, since his Marines are healthy and Byun's aren't. Byun's problem currently is a lack of medevacs. He's lost every single one of them by the looks of it. He is boosting his reinforcements across the map as he recognizes that is a severe issue. These Marines are going to get one shot by the tanks, but then when the attack happens, Marine versus Marine, it's not going to do well at all. All right, that's a bit of an awkward pause. You could see that he didn't get it immediately. So Byun didn't say why he paused. He just said sorry. The medevacs join up and are instantly used to drop into the main base. Usually this type of aggression after you've already found some momentum is great, but this just sacrificed both of his medevacs that he desperately needed. So that was not good. Even the Marines trying to take care of a Liberator cannot do so. These Liberators are more of a problem than they usually are in this type of game. When the Marine count is expected to be high, basically. Not the early game, when we're still talking about tanks and whatnot. It's a lot of Marines. Usually Liberators suck at this point. They're only used in a certain number of scenarios, like over this ledge was brilliant, for instance. But these Liberators have been here since almost day 1, like day 2, after the failed 2-starport play. And they have contributed greatly to every battle that has happened. Been just that little bit extra to make sure that Kier has not gotten overwhelmed. And now, of course, just being used to set up defense all over the map. Byun tries to race into the 3rd or 4th base, really the natural, actually, of Kier. And he does make some room. Kier's tank count at 7 now. I'm just not sure where they are. Well, they're all here, just not in position. Strictly in position. 3-3 upgrades are done for Byun, but he's still got to actually power through these tanks and a planetary, and you don't really want to use mass marine on planetaries. The mass SCV repair means that you got to trade a lot of them. Byun is pumping away on Marines. He is not changing his style whatsoever. Still just going mass marine, throwing the bodies across the map and hoping that Kier once again makes a mistake and loses the 3rd base. And Kier has replaced it. He stayed calm. He stayed collected. He said, I think this will work out even though I'm in a bit of trouble. And he was right about that. He is still holding on to this game. Byun's advantage now going to be probably a bank. As he takes a 5th base faster than his opponent and has more workers, he'll have a bigger bank. But if a fight really goes poorly for Byun, then a bank won't matter. You can't, you know, zerg it up and just build 100 Marines at once. Command center is gonna have to be lifted, but it is properly secured, I would say. Lots of tanks still available there. Big drop into the main base, or not so much big, but quite important drop into the main base. Liberators once again helping. It's just like usually Liberators, if they're not properly protected and coming with the army, you know, they're not that great. It's like, oh, one Liberator, let me just sim on top of it. But every time I've seen these Liberators interact, they've always been helpful. 12 SCVs do go down for Cure, furthering Byun's economic lead. But now Cure, of course this happens, doesn't it? Now Cure has a 20 army supply lead. He loses his third base, but now might be go time. His upgrades are evened up. His army supply is greater than his opponent's. His army type, I would say, is also greater. He's only down 16 Marines, but he has 5 more tanks, 8 Vikings to 0, and 5 Liberators that obviously are waiting to siege up on some of the very low number of tanks Byun already has, making them even lower. So Cure, you know, if he moves out, he might initiate a base race, and that can go either way. But if he does properly move out, siege hop slowly but surely, he will have a really good push. His army is undoubtedly better. The only thing that could screw it up is a huge surround for Byun, which is what Byun's looking for. He's also looking to buy some time. He thinks he can find the Liberator with his Marines, but once again, the Liberator just kicking ass. It was in that just tight position that the Marines had to bury themselves into this little, I don't know, choke thingy? Not really a choke, it's a corner. And the tank was in range, and that could have not have been more perfect. Liberators, seriously, way better in this game. And now, they're just straight up as good as you would expect. Now, things make sense if they're about to siege hop forward and clear out Byun's defensive tanks. This is what they're supposed to do. This is how Liberators gel, alright? But every other portion of this game that I've seen Liberators in, it's supposed to be Liberators died. Alcove. Great word for that one. Thank you, Death Pony. The alcove there. It was perfect. I mean, geez. Liberators, man. Can't explain it. Cure still with a 20 army supply lead. Byun might have stalled out the push so that it's not hit anything important yet, but it's getting there. This space on Gresfon, notoriously difficult against tanks. Zerg have trouble, Protoss have trouble, Terran has trouble. There's the kind of expected almost base race when the technically superior army moves across the map and gets sieged up. The real only option for the mass Marine player is to try and send the Marines across the map. So Cure sort of should have been expecting this. I think he was. He has a trickle of reinforcements to help out defensively, just nicely positioned tanks. And Byun can't find any more room. And that was supposed to not only force a real production problem, maybe they can top up the production to kill everything, but it was also supposed to force Cure's army back. Cure was supposed to respond to that. Cure didn't have to respond to it at all. He just continues moving forward. Loses the tank a little bit there, but still has a very good army, and actually he's going to pull the trigger. It seems like a dangerous maneuver, but I think he realized the tank count wasn't that high, the Marine concave was good, and Byun's Marines were already injured. The lack of medevacs providing quite the problem for Byun in this game. You can see that Byun was still sieged up. He was still ready to go, so it's more of a wash. But I think that's why Cure went for that attack, even though it looked super dangerous. He read into all those factors and said, I think it might be good enough. Was it good enough is actually an honest question, because Byun did manage to make it more of a wash. It was still okay for him. He's even closer in army supply, I think, than when we started. So it was 20 before, now it's 10. But he, I guess, is still the one being shelled on his economy. So that's the big problem here. Byun still on the defensive. Cure gonna move away, actually. Kind of scared. Doesn't know how much Byun has been able to rebuild behind this. You know, how much economy does this guy have? Presumably more than me. You know, Cure at least knows that much, that Byun has had faster command centers, probably more SCVs. Well, that'd be hard to scout. And might have a huge bank. So he's playing it quite safe. Moving over, scanning ahead. Really checking in on Byun's army, seeing that it's not really overpowering his anytime soon. Although, yes, Byun does now have an advantage in the army supply. He does have a stronger economy. You can tell in the numbers right here that Byun, even with his fourth base not mining, he's still mining a little bit more. Cure, though, now has a fourth base. A fifth. I was talking about their fifths. And I think just got his mining back together. Still down by 6, though. So yeah, it's been very Byun favored. It's a lot of red right there. And that has led to Byun finally getting an army lead. But as things calm down again, there's a real chance things calm down so much that Cure also gets maxed out and also, again, has that 6 army supply lead from the lack of workers. I don't know if that's going to happen because these guys are taking a long time to remax. It's still a scrappy game, but they both are really cautious, kind of just sending out feelers almost to see what's going on. So Kier sends out a single drop and finally scouts that is in fact a base already taken by Byun. Probably something that Kier isn't that surprised by, considering the way this game has gone, but it's still nonetheless kind of sucky. you want to be able to harass that. Byun scans a very vulnerable third base. Vulnerable because it's not defended. Also, it's already injured. That's a goner. Goodbye. Tank also a goner before Cure can respond. Cure is in a lot of trouble once again. But a deja vu. Minute 22 mirroring minute 15, whatever it was. Where Cure is on the back foot, just desperately hoping to survive and trying to get maxed out. This is once again what is happening. Orbital to the top right is found out, but just a handful of Marines, so Kier will be able to handle this, but now it's known about, right? So maybe right now, Kier can go back to mining. It's not a guarantee as the game goes on, but ditto for Byun. They both are taking a faraway base, non-planetary. So that one tank was not enough to the drop, and Kier will slaughter a lot of SCVs, finally taking a worker advantage as well. Medevac's going to try and be saved. Vikings get massacred, and this is already a great trade for Kier. The fact that he killed the Vikings as well, I mean, that just is really good. And the Marines are not just going for a distraction. These Marines becoming the heroes of the game. The Liberators have taken a back seat. They're letting someone else get the MVP award this time. Fortunately, those guys do get cleared up, so no going home for you. Sorry. But Kier now has an 8-worker lead. Is down by 14 army supply. 20. Okay, 20 now. So Orbital is the one that's still mining. Byun has to move SCVs over, or rebuild them, actually. The script has been flipped. Kier is now the one with a stronger economy, although just barely, but less army supply. And Byun is the one that is now taking advantage of this particular spot on Gresfon to try and stall out the 5th base mining. But this is the difference. Kier actually has tanks in position to make it not so easy. And he has Viking control, which is turned into Liberator control. In fact, Kier, it looks like one of the reasons he was so slow to maxing out was because he maybe overemphasized the Vikings. I don't think you need 14 Vikings when your opponent has 2. And in fact, I think that's a bit of a downside. 7, 8 Vikings would be perfect. Hell, he could literally get away with 4, couldn't he? But, you know. So that's taken a while longer for Kier to get maxed out. It is still a stronger army. I mean, 14 Vikings might be overkill. They might not be the supply you want if a big battle happens. But if you siege hop alongside having the Viking superiority, as long as you have enough siege tanks, right? If you have 20 less Marines because you have so many Vikings, but your tanks are sieged up, you're still going to take that. Vikings, by the way of Kier, so aplenty that they are. They're just spread all over the place. 4 of the Vikings having never moved, apparently, from the bottom left. Intercept a quad drop from Byun that would have been very painful, I think. I'm not sure this amount of Marines was here from the get-go, but I think it still would have been painful. So this is really important for Kier, who just took away Byun's maxed out army supply. Byun will be very quick to remaxing because he's putting all of his minerals into Marines, right? And his minerals not his problem, especially now that he is once again winning the economic war. His SCV count back up to where it should be. Kier not too far behind, but does Byun just have more minerals to mine? He might have just called down more mules. There's some reason why his numbers are bigger than his opponents, despite being on an equal worker count, but I'm gonna guess it was mules. Army's finally starting to move out here. Kier was on the defensive for a very long time, but now is trying to siege hop forward. It is very clear, I would say, to both these players how this game is going to go. One player has the tank, Viking, Liberator. The other player has Marines. I don't care that Kier also has Marines. It's basically not the point. Byun's Marines are going to have to get 1/6 around, or they're going to have to go for a base race. That's just how this game goes at this point. Byun tries to go for a drop once again, trying to be a little sneakier than before, avoiding the Vikings, but Kier had the reinforcements at home that were just the perfect amount, too, to tackle the units as they unloaded. And Byun trying to buy time on his side of the map is clearly just something that's temporary. Can buy time, you can't really win the battle, and once again, a drop on top of Byun's orbital kills 20 SCVs. Byun's drop didn't actually get entirely cleared up, but it basically is. And yeah, as I was saying, the time buying that Byun can get, I think, is very limited. Kier doesn't realize that, doesn't know where the army is scanning around, he doesn't know what's happening, he's prepared for that inevitable base race, so he actually pulls back, but he could have just leapfrogged his Liberators forward. I swear I was making a good point. But then I think Kier is just so, you know, rightly scared of the base race that he's choosing to back away, even if he could have run forward. If you don't have a good idea as to where their army is or how it's divvied up, then it's probably better to pull back when you're maxed out with a superior army and you're getting your bases back up too. The long game works out better for Kier. Byun is the Zerg, Kier is the Terran or the Protoss, and Byun's the one that's going to have to throw bodies and money at his opponent. And if he can't get more economy, then we know how that works out for his EVP. Of course, in his EDP, you don't have nearly as many base races, which this will probably lead into. But yeah, it's still the point. Like, Byun needs to be the one to break Kier. And you might need a lot more resources to do that. Oops, sorry about the zoom in, but we got that stim from downtown, which isn't a good thing, actually. The tanks got so many shots off because a scan was available. But the Marines do eventually make their way up into that high ground, have to stim again, and again, lack of medevacs are going to be an issue for Byun eventually. His supply really is not shining bright right now.
Thank you for appeasing.
Just one or two more tanks on the high ground, which are already set up, in fact. 3 tanks on the high ground means the Marines would never bust up that ramp. That was a really weird stim, to be honest. Like, Byun was all the way over here, and the actual fight was all the way over here. That Marine stim expired, I think, before it was really necessary. And now, once again, tanks, unsiege tanks and Liberators clear out the injured Marines. Byun, that wasn't it. That was not it. Even if he had more medevacs, I don't think that was it. You know? That was just too far. That was too much of a Hail Mary. But more medevacs would have made me a little more convinced. It's going to be a great spread from Byun. He takes advantage of Kier's slow-to-position units, but Kier also has fast movers, too. He's got those Marines. He's not completely without them, and as Byun's army supply has dwindled from 30 seconds ago, now Kier's Marines are ready to tango. Before, it was a lot more emphasis on tank Liberator, but now, even Kier can win these battles with Marines. He also has lack of medevacs, though, so it's, you know, severely injured units facing off against each other. But here's one thing that Kier has and Byun doesn't. The ability to make... Oh my god, yeah, okay, GG. The ability to make tanks, that's what I was going to say. Byun has to tap out, unfortunately gets reverse swept by Kier in the semifinals of the GSL. It is Kier who will move on to the best of 7 finals to face off against either Maru or Bunny. And we'll be finding out who that is a little later on. Thanks for watching, guys. And on YouTube, please like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. And I'll see you for the other semifinal very soon. Bye-bye. Thank you, Zeus Moose Zero, for that Prime sub.